the FDA claims there are, or it's a legitimate process on the way to being proven to be helpful, is, that's past my pay grade, as they say. No way of knowing that. But the fact that he's getting it done is not good. I mean, you wouldn't get it done if you didn't need it done. You're going to pretty strong measures to get it done. So, I mean, that to me indicates a lot. And not that I knew, you could tell what he was going through last year. So that part's not new. But yeah, I'm more concerned. I'm more concerned post video than pre video, is how I'll describe it.
That's fair enough. We'll see what ends up happening with it. With Cam Jurgens, obviously, I've been concerned on Cam. I don't know if that's it's one of my bigger concerns of the offseason, John, Cam Jurgens. I don't know how good he's going to be in the future. We will find out. A little bit of a career at a crossroads framing on this as well. So we will see what ends up happening with Cam Jurgens. John, some other news in Eagle land. All right, a weird reshuffling, it seems like. What is the latest, John, on the Eagles quarterback coach? Is Parks Frazier replacing Scott Loeffler, the Eagles' last year's passing game coordinator? What is the latest with the Eagles coaching staff and the shuffling of the deck?
Yeah, Parks Frazier is going to take over the quarterback coach job. According to Matt Zenitz of CBS, who's very good with coaching stuff, so I wouldn't push back. It's the Eagles haven't confirmed it yet, so I can't say 100%. But I've never known Matt to steer anybody in a different direction when it comes to the coaching part of it. So, and it was strange when the Eagles brought back Jamal Singleton and Aaron Moorhead. There was also news that they were going to keep Parks Frazier in an undisclosed position. So that was the first hand that something was going on. And it's going to be quarterbacks coach, and Scott Loeffler will be one and done after leaving Bowling Green as the head coach there. And Jalen Hurts will have, I believe, got to count it out, Press Taylor, Brian Johnson, Alex Tanney, Doug Nussmeier, Scott Loeffler, Parks Frazier. So how many is that?
5, right?
3, 4, 5, 6. 6. He'll be number 6. And that's, the quarterback's coach is the guy who works with him on a day-to-day basis with technique, fundamentals, footwork, things like that. So very important job. I would argue more important than the passing game coordinator, to be honest, just because of that, hand on the button of the technique, especially with the Eagles trying to change to some different things that'll require some different footwork and things of that nature. So, Parks Frazier is the guy. He's been with Nick obviously before in Indianapolis, and he brought him back. So obviously they like him. And Scott Loeffler's had that weird, I don't know. There's weird conspiracy theory last year, but I don't even want to give it any breath. But it was not
good.
But it was not true. And I don't think most people know that much about Scott Loeffler because he was here for such a short time. But as I said, former head coach at Bowling Green. There was that one weird sort of clip from Hard Knocks, which people took in a bunch of different ways. But, it was evident when the Eagles started talking about outside candidates that they were thinking about replacing him. And the only question at that point comes, can you get somebody you like, or are you going to have to run it back because you have to run it back? And it turns out, well, they weren't able to get Greg Olson. And they thought they had somebody in the building who could do the job better as well. So where we're at.
Yeah, well, we'll see what ends up happening there. Parks Frazier, John, you like the hire? You think it's a good thing? What do you know about Parks Frazier? Is he an impressive guy to you and your experience with him? What can you tell us about Parks Frazier?
Well, he went on, as I mentioned, he was in Indianapolis early in his career as first the assistant to the head coach, so Frank Reich, and then quality control, which is an entry level job, kept growing, growing. And then he was the assistant quarterbacks coach in Indy. And then he left. He got his big break, if you want to call that, as the passing game coordinator in Carolina. And then he went to Miami to be an offensive assistant under Mike McDaniel, which I'm sure the Eagles like. And then he came back with Nick as a pass game coordinator last year. So, and he does have some experience calling plays. He did it in the interim role when Frank got fired out there, if you remember that. So, Greg Olson to me would have been the way to go, but and they also interviewed Connor Senger, who's a younger coach from Arizona.
I saw him get an OC interview. Was that right? Is that right? I thought I saw that.
Yeah, I think he got a couple OC interviews. Yeah. But to my knowledge, well, he hasn't gotten an OC job, but I don't think he's landed anywhere yet. So, but they did interview him. I'm not even sure if they interviewed Greg Olson. I know they wanted to talk to him, and I'm not sure if that came to fruition, but maybe it was just Parks Frazier all along, and we just didn't know it. But he has history with quarterbacks and the passing game, so I'm sure it'll be fine. And younger guy, so Scott Loeffler was a little bit older. Maybe have a better rapport from that standpoint. But that can work both ways. You might want the experience, and you might want a guy who can connect. We'll see how it works. But as I pointed out when we were talking about offensive coordinators yesterday, 21 or 32, I'm shelving the continuity talk. It doesn't exist, so why bother talking about it? From the standpoint of, again, everybody talks about the offensive coordinators. Well, I just gave you the list. He's had that same kind of turnover at quarterbacks coach, and it's been the same thing. You have a disappointing season, Alex Tanney's out. You have a good season, Doug Nussmeier gets hired elsewhere. You have a bad season, using quotations, because again, the Eagles won 11 games, but they act like they won 5.
I do get a kick out of this, man. The whole city talks like we won 5 ball games.
Yeah. And so you have a discipline, Scott Loeffler. That's how it works now in this city because of the expectations and where everybody is and where everybody thinks this team should be. So, Parks, if the Eagles are successful, he'll probably get an offensive coordinator job next year at the bare minimum. And if they're not successful, well, nice knowing you.
We'll see. Does he have experience developing quarterbacks? I guess would be the big question here. He's 34 years old, so can't have that much. But John, I mean, you mentioned he was in Indy. You mentioned some of the other areas some of the other places that he worked. Does he have experience, a real track record of developing quarterbacks, or is that not what they're looking for in that job? I don't know. Maybe I understand it wrong. I've always thought that position coaches should be able to further the development of players that work within their position group. Is Parks Frazier fit that, or is that not what they're even looking for there?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of experience as a quarterbacks coach. He jumped right from assistant quarterbacks coach in Indy to again, interim play caller. Then he was a passing game coordinator, offensive. So you're working with the quarter. But as far as day to day running a room, the quarterback room, this will be the first time he's ever done it. The guy in charge of running the entire room. But I mean, he's been around good quarterbacks and Indy, young quarterback and Bryce Young, who you can say some good, some bad, Tua. So no, not a long history, certainly. And this will be the first quarterback room he's actually run. So doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but compared to Scott Loeffler's experience, he doesn't have that kind of experience. But again, maybe he connects better, whatever, however we want to talk about it. But Scott's 51, 52, and he's coached quarterback. He coached Tom Brady in Michigan. I mean, the story. He coached quarterbacks in Detroit with the Lions. He coached quarterbacks at Florida in college. Temple for 1 year, Auburn, Virginia Tech, BC, and then he got the head coaching job. So his stuff is mainly in college, but long time teaching quarterbacks. So if experience is what you're looking for, they went backward, certainly.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening with that. Parks Frazier, the Eagles' new quarterbacks coach. Wonder what Jalen Hurts feels about all this. I guess, we'll never find that out, but we will see how it works next season for the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here on this Tuesday morning as the franchise tag window is now opened up. John, well, if you're in Philly, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. We talked about this yesterday. They really do not use the franchise tag. So don't look for anything. But where I do think it's interesting, John, is NFC East, where you have obviously George Pickens, who is the biggest name, maybe the biggest free agent, right now this off season. I think he's going to get tagged, but is it a tag for Dallas? Do they want to keep him on the tag? Are they going to tag and trade him? Are they going to? You never know with Dallas, John, and I think that is an interesting name. So I'm curious to see what happens with George Pickens. I'm curious of your thoughts on that, and then also if any other names that you think could fall on the franchise tag list.
Well, I mean, teams are getting smarter. So I think there were only 2 players tagged last year in the entire league.
Wow, only 2.
Franchise tag. Yeah, it was T. Higgins, shitty organization, Cincinnati, and Trey Smith, Kansas City, which was a little bit of a surprise. But so yeah, I don't expect to see a lot of them. The people in Dallas have kind of intimated the Cowboys are going to tag Pickens. They're a bad organization. Indy, has some questions. What do they do with Daniel Jones? Coming off the injury, especially, they might tag him. The running backs are kind of cheap after the run. Maybe Seattle with Kenneth Walker, maybe, but I doubt it. Can't imagine Cincinnati would go down the route again with Trey Hendrickson. He might just retire.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. You think Seattle will sign Kenneth Walker?
I think they'll try. I mean, we'll see. He'll probably get overpaid because I mean, remember, Zach Charbonneau was doing more of the heavy lifting until he got hurt. So that's one of those things where you should probably be smarter. And say, look, guy, nice run, thank you, Godspeed, but all right, we got a complimentary approach here, and but I think they'll try to keep him, and it's kind of cheap. Kyle Pitts, I don't think Atlanta would do that. So not a lot. I expect 2 or 3 at the most. Teams have gotten smarter and realize it's as I talked about with the Eagles, are usually ahead of the curve. You don't want hostages. You want volunteers. And anybody who gets the tag tends to be pissed off about it. So
Yeah. Do you think Dallas will tag Pickens?
yeah, they're idiots. Yeah, I do.
You think he'll